The day I won 50 million in the lottery, I quietly pulled my name out of the National Online Writing Championship. I did not tell anyone. I did not need to. My junior, Derek, found out before I even had the chance to breathe. He stormed up to me in the hallway, his face red with anger, and slapped me hard across the cheek. The sound echoed down the corridor. "You are running away at the most important moment," he snapped. "Do you have any idea how much Professor Hayes trusted you? Do you even care about the people who believed in you? Or is it that your entry was stolen from someone and you are scared the judges will figure it out?" I touched my cheek and said nothing. In my previous life, Derek had submitted a competition entry that was word for word identical to mine. When the judges noticed, everything collapsed in an instant. I was the senior, the one with published novels and writing awards to my name. I was the one everyone pointed at. I went to my editor sister, Clara, who had always given me story ideas and inspiration. I went to my childhood friend, Mia, who had been by my side since we were children. I asked them both to speak up for me, to tell the world what they knew. Instead, Clara released a public apology statement without asking me. She begged the competition panel to be lenient, saying I was young and could change. Mia said nothing useful. The internet tore me apart after that. No surprise someone like him would cheat at such a big event. Turns out his own sister works as an editor and was feeding him material. A whole family of frauds. A simple apology fixes everything. Is that how it works? Then why do we even have laws? Still young. He is over 18. If you want to act like a child, go do it at home. Nobody asked to see this. The competition panel denied Clara's request and officially branded me a plagiarist. What hurt most was that I had only entered the competition for one reason. Clara had damaged her voice badly and could no longer speak. She needed surgery. The prize money was 300,000, and I had intended to use every penny for her treatment. But after the scandal, not only did I lose the prize, I was also hit with a massive penalty for breaking the competition agreement. Meanwhile, Derek, who had never written a serious story in his life, won first place. His entry was praised as one of the finest short works of the decade. A film company bought the rights almost immediately. He became famous overnight, a celebrated young author with a charming face and a glowing reputation. I became the villain. The plagiarism label followed me everywhere. I was expelled from university. With no degree and no money, I started delivering food on a bicycle to pay off the penalty. But people recognized me from the news. They would order food, leave me waiting at the door, and then file fake complaints just to cancel my pay for the day. My mother ran from office to office trying to clear my name. Online strangers found her and attacked her without mercy. She collapsed from the stress and ended up in the intensive care unit. To cover her hospital bills, I found work at a construction site carrying cement bags. After just a few days, the site foreman sacked me and refused to pay what I had earned. That same evening, the hospital called. They said my mother's condition was critical and I should prepare myself. I climbed to the hospital rooftop that night and jumped. But when I opened my eyes again, I was back. It was the week before the writing competition, and everything was exactly as it had been. Clara was standing in the doorway of my room, gesturing with her hands, her face soft with worry. She pointed at a plate of ribs on the desk, my favorite, and then at me, silently telling me to eat before I wore myself out. I nearly fell off my chair. Before I could recover, Mia walked in carrying a small box. "I heard your shoulder has been acting up," she said with a gentle smile. "I picked up this massager for you. It should help loosen the tension a bit." Looking at them both, I felt something cold move through my chest. These were the same two people who had watched me drown in my previous life. Clara, who was 5 years older than me and had raised me like a son. Mia, who was not blood but had always felt closer than any real family. And yet neither of them had stood by me when it mattered most. I forced a smile and thanked them quietly. Inside, I had already made my decision. I had to figure out how Derek had managed to copy my entry perfectly. In my past life, I had never understood it. His work was not just similar to mine. It was identical, right down to the structure, the pacing, and the tone. There was no way he had written it independently. Someone had given him access to my work. And the only two people who had been close enough to do that were the two women now standing in my room, looking at me with warm eyes and kind smiles. "Nathan," Clara gestured, placing a thick folder on my desk. I pulled some material through internal contacts. "If you follow this outline, first place is practically guaranteed." Mia laughed from the side. "You have to win, Nathan. I am counting on that prize money to finally eat somewhere decent." I knew she was joking. But I could not laugh. Chapter 2. I sat at my desk and stared at the folder Clara had given me. The moment everyone left the room, I opened Derek's social media profile on my phone and began reading through his recent posts. Derek came from a comfortable background. His father held a senior position at a government enterprise and his mother was a professor at a prestigious university. He was tall, well-dressed, and had a following of admirers online who treated his every post like a royal announcement. He wore clothes that cost more than most people earned in a month. His watch alone was worth a small car. Clara's work sometimes brought her into contact with academics and publishing professionals, which meant she likely knew Derek's mother. I had seen her gesture to Mia once, comparing the two of us. She had said Derek was cultured and polished, while I was rough and plain. She had even hinted that if Mia ever wanted to settle down, she should look for someone like Derek rather than a plain person like me. At the time I had laughed it off. Now I understood she had meant every word. I pretended to have a stomach ache and excused myself to the bathroom. With the door locked, I opened Derek's latest post. My stomach dropped. He had shared a writing outline and a story concept. Both were identical to what Clara had just put in front of me, almost word for word. The comments underneath were full of praise. "This story structure is unlike anything I have read before. The literary world finally has something worth talking about. You are definitely winning first place. Please write faster, I cannot wait to read the full thing." I stood very still in the small bathroom, holding my phone with both hands. The story inspiration Clara had given me was the same as what Derek had publicly posted. That was too much to be a coincidence. Someone had shared it with him, or someone had shared it with both of us deliberately, knowing exactly what would happen next. If I used the material Clara had given me and wrote the story I had planned, it would match Derek's entry completely. Then the judges would compare timestamps, and his would be earlier. I had seen this play out before. I already knew how it ended. So I made a different choice. I was most comfortable writing fantasy, and that was what I had always done. But this time I would switch genres entirely. I would write a suspense thriller, something completely different, something no one could claim to have inspired or shared with me. I stayed in the bathroom for nearly an hour, quietly planning. When I came out, I sat back at the desk and wrote a quick, vague outline in my notebook, something convincing enough to show I was working, but not revealing the real direction I had chosen. The next morning, before Clara and Mia woke up, I slipped out of the house and went to my mentor's home. Professor Grant was the teacher who had first encouraged me to write seriously. He had believed in my talent from the beginning, and even in my past life, he had been the only one to fight for me after the scandal broke. He had failed, but he had tried. That meant something. When he opened the door and saw me standing on his step looking tired and troubled, he immediately handed me a warm meat bun and pulled me inside. "You have not eaten," he said simply. I sat down and asked him something that had been bothering me all morning. "Professor, if I do not win first place in this competition, will you be ashamed of me?" He looked at me with surprise, then let out a soft laugh and ruffled my hair like I was still a child in his class. "Not winning first place is not a failure, Nathan. I know what you are capable of. You can try again. As long as you are all right, that is enough for me." I nodded slowly. Something tight in my chest loosened a little. After I left his house, my phone buzzed with a message from Clara. "Nathan, where did you go? Mia came by with breakfast and you were not here. She is upset." I replied that I had gone to buy writing supplies and would be back soon. I did not go back. Instead, I went to the university library and sat down alone in a quiet corner, opened a blank document, and started writing something completely new. Chapter 3. I stayed in the library until the sky outside turned dark. By evening, the new outline was finished. I leaned back in my chair, stretched my arms above my head, and reached for my phone to check if Derek had posted anything recently. Before I could unlock the screen, I heard footsteps. Clara and Mia appeared from between the bookshelves. I blinked. The library was not exactly a place people wandered into by accident. How had they known I was here? Clara walked straight to my desk without a word and set a warm lunchbox in front of me. She gestured to indicate she had figured I would forget to eat. Mia placed a thermos beside it and said, "I spent the afternoon making chicken soup. You need to keep your energy up." They both looked so genuine. So natural. Like two people who simply cared. I studied their faces for a moment. Was I imagining things? Was I letting the memory of my past life poison the way I saw them now? I forced a smile and said, "You came at just the right time. I am starving. Let me wash my hands first." I walked to the bathroom with my phone, stepped past the men's room, and stood at the sink. I opened Derek's profile. He had posted something new. There are shameless people in this world who take what belongs to others without even asking. I shared my inspiration and outline openly, thinking I was being generous, and someone just helped themselves to it. It is no different from stealing. I will have to start everything from scratch. The photo attached to the post showed the back of a male student seated in a library. Anyone who knew me would have recognized the jacket and the way I sat. The comment section was flooded with concern and outrage on Derek's behalf. He replied to one comment saying he was planning to write a suspense thriller and had already completed a new outline. I went cold. I had not told a single person about my decision to change genres. I had not written it anywhere visible. I had barely decided it myself the previous night. Yet Derek's post described exactly the direction I had taken. There was a spy. And they were very close. A hand touched my shoulder and I nearly dropped my phone. It was Mia. She and Clara had come to check on me. I steadied my breathing and shook my head. "Sorry, I was just thinking." "Go ahead, I will be right there." Mia's expression hardened. "You know, Clara and I went out of our way to bring you all of this, and you are standing here acting suspicious. We are not stupid, Nathan. We have noticed how you have been behaving this past week. Acting like you cannot trust us. Have you completely lost your sense of gratitude?" Clara stepped in quickly, gesturing to calm things down. She shook her head at Mia and signed that she was being too harsh. "I get it," I said quietly. "I know you are both worried about me. I appreciate it. Actually, if it becomes too much to manage, maybe I should just stay in the university dorm for a few days so I am not a burden." Mia clicked her tongue. "Do whatever you like. I do not care." She grabbed Clara by the arm and the two of them walked out. I let out a slow breath. That night, I packed up my things and headed back to the dorm. My roommate, Leo, was already awake, hunched over his phone with a wide grin on his face. Curious, I leaned over to see what he was looking at. It was Derek's social media. He had posted a new photo. 3 hands holding cans of cola raised in a toast. The caption read, "Thanks to the lovely ladies for feeding me tonight." I recognized the hands immediately. One set belonged to Clara. The other to Mia. Below the photo were 2 comments. Mia had written, "Derek will always be my ideal man." Clara had written, "Do not worry, Derek. I will make sure you in first place." I stared at the screen for a long moment. Then I pressed refresh. The comments were gone. They had deleted them. But I had seen them clearly. I sat on the edge of my bed and stared at the wall. Everything I had suspected was true. The plagiarism plan, the spying, the false kindness, all of it had been deliberate. They were working together to feed Derek my material and destroy my reputation in the process. But I was no longer the same person I had been in my past life. This time, I was not going to be the one who drowned. I started to relax, just a little. Then I caught Leo out of the corner of my eye. He was crouched near my bed, quietly lifting the cover of my notebook. I sat up instantly. "Leo. What exactly do you think you are doing?" Chapter 4. Leo jumped back like he had been burned. The notebook slipped from his hands and hit the floor. He straightened up and crossed his arms, trying to look offended. "Why are you yelling? Do not think I do not know the truth. It is you who copied my cousin's work. I have known since the beginning. Honestly, I cannot believe I have to share a dorm with someone like you. You should be grateful I have not reported you already, and here you are making a scene. Unbelievable. His cousin. I let that sink in. Leo was Derek's cousin. He had been placed in my dorm deliberately. That evening, Leo posted my personal details in the comments section of one of Derek's public posts. Within hours, my private messages were full of abuse. Someone slipped into the dorm while I was out and poured dirt across my bed. Someone else dropped dead cockroaches into my water bottle. I did not panic. I called Professor Grant. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he told me to come over right away. By the time I arrived, he had already unlocked the door to a small spare apartment he owned nearby. "Stay here," he said firmly. "Focus on the writing. Once the competition is over, we will deal with everything else together." I moved in that same night. The apartment was quiet. There were no interruptions, no watching eyes, no fake concern wrapped in warm food. I sat at the desk and wrote steadily for days. The night before submissions were due, I finished the story. I read through it once from the beginning to the end, made a few small corrections, and sat back with a feeling of quiet satisfaction. Then I opened Derek's social media. He had just posted a submission announcement. The post included a screenshot of his document. It was blurred at the edges, but the first few lines were just visible enough to read. They were identical to the opening of my finished story. The post was timestamped 10 minutes before I had even completed my final draft. I stood up, walked across the room, picked up my notebook, and threw it hard against the wall. It bounced off and landed open on the floor. I had been reborn. I had changed everything I could think to change. And still, somehow, it had come to the same place. Then my phone buzzed. A lottery notification. The ticket I had bought a few days ago as a small distraction had come through. 50 million. I sat down on the edge of the bed and did not move for a full minute. Then something shifted in my mind. Clear and cold and quiet. If I had money, I did not need the competition. I had never wanted fame. I had entered the competition for the prize, to pay for Clara's voice surgery, and to prove I could hold my own. But the surgery was based on a lie. The support was a performance. And the proof, I realized, could be delivered in a much more satisfying way than winning a writing award. I did not tell anyone about the lottery win. Instead, I sat back down at the desk and began revising my story. Derek liked to copy. Fine. I would let him copy. But this time, I had changed the ending. I had hidden a twist inside the story, something clever enough that anyone with real intelligence would catch it immediately. And that twist, when read aloud in public, would be Derek's own confession. I submitted the revised version quietly and said nothing to anyone. The night the competition ended, Derek went live online to share what he called his competition experience. His chat room filled up within minutes. "Are you going to make the top 3? I already know you are winning first place." Before Derek could even respond, Mia typed in the chat, "Top 3. Derek is winning first. I have zero doubts." The comment section exploded with congratulations. Then Derek's expression changed. The camera was still running. The chat kept scrolling. And then, from off-screen, 2 police officers stepped into the frame. They handcuffed Derek without hesitation. "We have received a report involving you. Please come with us." The live stream audience froze. Wait, is this real? Is this staged? That is the charming young author everyone was just praising. How is he being arrested? Someone is definitely framing him. This has to be jealousy. I closed the live stream and leaned back in my chair. I knew exactly why Derek had gone pale. Chapter 5. After collecting my lottery winnings in disguise, I had paid a private investigator to look into Derek's background. His family looked respectable from the outside. Government father, professor mother, a face that belonged on a magazine cover. But Derek's monthly expenses were extraordinary. The kind of money his family earned in a year would not cover what he spent in a month. Custom clothing. A watch that cost more than most people's apartments. Regular overseas travel. The investigator did not take long to find the answer. Derek offered paid companionship to wealthy older women. He would accompany them on weekend trips in exchange for large sums of money transferred quietly into his account. That was how he sustained a lifestyle that had no honest explanation. I did not expose this story directly. I had a better plan. The story I had written for the competition was a suspense thriller. The entire plot built slowly toward a final revelation. I had deliberately altered the last twist so that when it was read, it described a young man who had deceived others, stolen credit for work he had not done, and lived a double life hidden behind a polished surface. The ending required the character to confess everything publicly, in front of an audience that had trusted him. Anyone who had copied the story without understanding it would have no choice but to read that ending aloud, not knowing they were reading their own story back to the world. Derek was not a careful reader. He was not a careful thinker. He had stolen my words and presented them as a brilliant work of original fiction. And when the police arrived mid-broadcast, he panicked and started talking. That was exactly what I had counted on. From inside his live stream, Derek pointed at the camera and shouted, "I have been set up. The real criminal is Nathan. He is the one who copied my work and is now trying to frame me. He is jealous. He has always been jealous." Mia typed rapidly in the chat, "Derek's father is a senior official. His mother is a respected professor. There is no way someone from that background would do something like this. This is Nathan doing what he always does. Running when he should stand and hiding behind accusations when he gets caught." Then Clara joined the live stream. She began typing one message after another with barely a pause between them. "Whoever is behind this is pathetic. Derek is a good person and I will personally vouch for his character. If anyone wants to confront Nathan directly, I will go there right now and do it live." Mia added immediately, "I am coming with you." I read their messages and almost smiled. I was sitting in a small rented apartment that they had no idea I had moved to. There was no way they could find me. Less than 10 minutes later, the front door was kicked open. Clara walked in first. She grabbed my collar with both hands, her face close to mine. "It is you. You could not stand that Derek and I had grown close, so you decided to destroy him. That is what this is. Admit it." Mia came in right behind her. She slapped me across the face before I could say a word. "Do not even bother explaining, Nathan. I know what you have been doing this whole week. Sneaking around, stealing the material and ideas that Derek had generously shared online, trying to pass them off as your own original work. Derek never said a word about it. He was too polite. And you are repaying that generosity with slander. What a shameless person." Both of them were filming with their phones. I looked at them the way you look at strangers. Calm, detached, a little curious. In my past life, I had believed Clara needed me. I had genuinely loved her the way a younger sibling loves an older one who has sacrificed everything. I had entered that competition for her sake. I had wanted to give her back her voice. But she had been able to speak all along. I reached up slowly and removed Clara's hands from my collar. I looked at her directly and said, "Since you can clearly speak for yourself now, let us hear it. You have been pretending to be mute this entire time just to keep me working toward a goal that was never real. Is that what a real sister does?" Clara opened her mouth and then closed it. Her face went pale. I turned to Mia and said, "You said I plagiarized Derek's entry. What exactly is your evidence? Saying something false to a live audience is not just rude. It is something a court might be interested in." Mia lifted her chin confidently and declared, "The evidence is obvious. Your competition entry and Derek's entry are identical. Everyone knows it." I said, "Are you certain I even submitted an entry?" She hesitated. I continued, "How do you know what I submitted? Are you one of the judges? Or is it that someone has been monitoring me closely enough to know exactly what I wrote?" Mia's face changed. She recovered quickly, but not before I saw the flicker of panic. I picked up my phone and called the competition hotline in front of the live stream audience. The operator confirmed on the recording that no entry had been submitted under my name. Mia's mouth fell open. "That is impossible. You definitely submitted." I saw, she stopped herself. I said nothing. I let the silence do the work. Then I pulled up the competition story on my phone and began reading the final twist aloud. The live stream audience sat in stunned silence as every line clicked into place. By the time I finished the last paragraph, the comment section had gone from confusion to absolute chaos. Chapter 6. The comments poured in faster than anyone could read them. So the celebrated young author who everyone was just congratulating is not the author at all. He stole the whole thing and then had the nerve to go live and celebrate. And the girl defending him, the one who is supposedly his senior sister, she just helped an outsider sabotage her own family. What kind of person does that? The cousin in the dorm was cyberbullying someone he barely knew. All of them deserve what is coming. Clara stared at her phone. Then she looked at me. Nathan, why did you not tell me you had withdrawn? I have been doing everything I could to help you. Do you have any idea how much effort I put into this? And you were not even participating. While I was working myself into the ground for you. Mia nodded vigorously from beside her. Exactly. I made chicken soup for you. I brought you supplies. I was genuinely worried. And this is what you think of us? You are cruel, Nathan. I said, Clara, let us talk about honesty since you brought it up. You pretended you could not speak for long enough to manipulate my decisions. How is that more honest than anything you are accusing me of? Whether I choose to enter a competition or not is my own decision. I do not owe either of you an explanation. I paused, then added quietly, as for what you have done for me, and what you have done for Derek, I think you both already know the answer. Clara's face tightened. She leaned forward, her voice sharp. You have ruined Derek's reputation. Do you understand what that means? A man's reputation is everything. You had no right to do this to him. I will have you taken to court for defamation. From inside the police station where he was being processed, Derek had apparently found access to a live stream. He appeared on camera, red-eyed and trembling. Clara, they are lying. Please. You have to help me. Tell them Nathan is behind all of this. He planted the evidence. None of it is real. He turned to the officers beside him and raised his voice. You are arresting me based on something one person made up. Where is the actual proof? Or is it that Nathan paid someone here? Why is nobody arresting him instead? One of the officers looked at him without expression. Choose your words carefully. We have documentation of your activities going back several months. We were going to process this quietly, but if you would prefer everything made public, that can be arranged. Derek went silent. The live stream audience watched it all unfold in real time. The comment count climbed into the hundreds of thousands. After Derek was led away from the camera, Clara and Mia stood in my apartment doorway looking hollowed out. The traffic on the live stream had been enormous, and they had been in it. Now the audience's attention had shifted entirely to them, and the questions were not kind. They shot me one last furious look each, then left quickly. I sat alone in the quiet apartment and thought about my past life. About standing on a hospital rooftop with nothing left. About the crowd that had torn me apart because someone they liked had told them a convincing story. The same crowd was now on my side. Nothing about them had changed. Only the story they had been told. Chapter 7. The weeks that followed were strange. Writing platforms reached out. Magazines wanted interviews. A small publishing house sent a formal letter asking if I had any long-form projects available. My old serialist work, which had been largely ignored during the scandal in my past life, was suddenly being read by tens of thousands of new readers. I watched all of it from the apartment like someone watching rain through a window. Present but not quite inside it. The one thing I could not stop thinking about was Clara. Mia's motivation I could understand. She was ambitious, she admired wealth and status, and Derek represented exactly what she wanted to be close to. That made a kind of cold sense. But Clara was supposed to be my sister. She had raised me through genuinely difficult years. She had fed me, listened to me, and stayed up through the night when I was sick. If her care had been entirely fake, then she had been performing it for a very long time. Nobody sustains a lie that consistently without some thread of real feeling underneath. Unless the relationship itself was not what I believed it to be. I sat with that thought for a long time. Then I did something I had been putting off since the week before the competition. I went back to the house while Clara was out and took a single strand of her hair from her brush. I sent it to a testing facility the same afternoon. While I waited for results, I started paying closer attention to something else. I had always assumed Derek had accessed my work through a spy installed in my home. A camera in the study, perhaps, or a recording device hidden in the room. But when I moved into Professor Grant's apartment, I had checked my laptop carefully and found nothing wrong with it. So how had Derek known I had changed genres? How had he known I was at the library? How had the photo of my back been taken from a distance, at exactly the right angle, before I had even told anyone where I was going? One evening, Professor Grant's father, who was retired from the police force, came to visit. I mentioned the situation to him, not expecting much. He was quiet for a moment, then his eyes settled on the glasses resting on my nose. "May I look at those for a moment?" I handed them over. He examined them slowly under a small magnifying glass he kept in his coat pocket. After a minute, he went very still. "I thought so," he said softly. He held the magnifying glass out to me and pointed to the screw at the front of the frame, where the bridge met the lens housing. I looked closely. Right in the center of the screw head was a tiny hole. No larger than the tip of a pin. Inside it was a lens. A camera. I sat back. About a month before I had registered for the competition, Clara had knocked my old glasses off a shelf and broken the frame. She had been apologetic and immediately offered to replace them. She had taken them to a shop and brought back the new frame the next day. I had thought nothing of it. The replacement looked identical to the original. That small camera had been watching everything I did for weeks. Every note I wrote. Every outline I sketched. Every moment I spent planning my story. All of it had been transmitted somewhere. Professor Grant's father explained that the type of device I was describing was not commercially available. Whoever had placed it would have needed specialized knowledge and access to hardware that was not easy to come by. He said it was the kind of technology associated with operations that went well beyond a writing competition. He asked me to let him report it to the relevant authorities. I agreed immediately. I handed over the glasses and the camera. Then I sat down and wrote a detailed statement about everything I knew and suspected, including Clara's programming background, which I had always considered simply a hobby, and the unexpected people she had come into contact with through her publishing work. I submitted the statement to the authorities the same day. Then I went back to the apartment, transferred funds from my lottery account, and signed the paperwork on a modest villa I had identified earlier in the week. The $50 million meant I could buy it outright. By that evening, I was moved in. I blocked both Clara and Mia on every platform without ceremony. Then I booked myself onto a summer travel itinerary, a long one, covering several cities I had never visited. School was on its long break, the competition was finished, and my past life had kept me in a state of constant dread for so long that I had forgotten what it felt like to simply rest. I stayed away for a month. When I came back, I was carrying bags of regional snacks and a lighter feeling in my chest. I was thinking about dropping some off at Professor Grant's home when I walked out of the estate gates and nearly collided with Clara. I almost did not recognize her. She had lost so much weight her clothes hung strangely off her frame. Her hair was tangled, her eyes were dark underneath, and her skin had a gray, exhausted quality that I had never seen on her before. She looked like someone who had not slept properly in weeks. Before I could step back, she grabbed my arm and pulled me toward a parked car. Chapter 8. She pushed me into the back seat and held my shoulders with both hands, her grip tight and desperate. "Nathan, why did you move out? Do you have any idea what I have been going through trying to find you? I have been worried sick." I looked at her steadily. "You were not worried about me. You were worried about losing your access." Her face tightened. "I know I hid the fact that I could speak. I understand why you are angry. But I am your real sister, Nathan. Whatever else has happened, that is the truth. I came looking for you because I care about you, not for any other reason." I said gently, "If that is true, then now that you can see I am fine and healthy, you can let me go." I reached for the door handle. She grabbed my arm again. Her eyes shifted the way they always did when she was about to say something she knew was wrong. I waited. "Nathan." She exhaled slowly. Derek is in serious trouble. His reputation is destroyed. He was already struggling mentally before any of this happened, and now it has become much worse. He is the son of an important client of mine, and if his situation does not improve, my professional relationship with that family is finished. I know this is a lot to ask, but if you could just say publicly that you submitted the competition entry from his account by mistake, as a joke, it would give him a way to recover his image. I stared at her. You want me to file a false statement with competition officials and in public, which is a criminal offense, and go to prison, so that Derek can recover his image. She started to say something but I continued. And while you are asking this of me, you already know I won the lottery. So this is not coming from concern. This is a calculation. You are weighing what I have against what you need. She looked away. Nathan, you have the money now. You do not need anything from this competition. You could just do this one thing for the sake of our relationship. I said, let me ask you something first. I pulled out the paternity test results I had been carrying in my jacket pocket for 3 days, waiting for the right moment. I placed the folded paper on the seat between us and said nothing. Clara looked at the paper without touching it. Her expression did not collapse dramatically the way I had half expected. It just went very quiet. Her eyes dropped and her hands, which had been gripping my arm, slowly released. Are you even going to pretend to be surprised? I asked. She did not answer. I had known from the moment the results came back, though in truth some part of me had already known before that. No real sibling, no matter how complicated the relationship, would work so systematically to ruin the person they had raised. The calculation required distance. The kind of distance you only have when the bond was built on something other than love. The investigation I had commissioned after receiving the results told a cleaner story than I had expected. Clara was Derek's biological sister. Derek and I had been born in the same hospital on the same night, to 2 very different families. Mine was a well-off family with stability and education. Derek's family had very little. Clara, who had been present in the hospital as a young girl visiting her newborn brother, had made a decision in that corridor. She had switched the identification tags. Derek went home to my family. I went home to hers. And so our lives had been reversed before either of us could speak a word. My real family, the Harlow family, had raised Derek, watching him grow up to be charming and confident and effortlessly comfortable in a life that had been meant for me. And I had grown up with Clara, who had manufactured my dependency on her from the beginning, not out of love, but out of control. She had always needed to know where I was, what I was thinking, what I was writing. Not because she cared about me. Because managing me was how she managed Derek's future. I left the car without another word. That evening, I received a call from someone who knew Clara. There was news. After I left, she had driven directly to Derek's home. She had confronted him about the biological connection between them, hoping that he would want to know his real sister. That knowing the truth would matter to him. Derek had laughed at her. I found out later through a mutual contact what he had actually said, privately, on a voice memo he had carelessly recorded himself and later forgotten about. It surfaced during the investigation. That Clara is exhausting. A woman who cannot even speak, acting like we have some special connection. I only kept her around because she was useful. The moment this competition is over, I am cutting her off completely. She is embarrassing to be around. And Mia is exactly the same. Both of them act like I owe them something. They have no money, no real status, and somehow they expect to be treated like they matter to me. The delusion. Clara had heard some version of this when she confronted him. She had gone to the rooftop. Derek, furious and cornered, had followed. In the struggle, he pushed her. She fell. Mia, who had been standing in the car park below waiting without knowing what was happening, was struck in the fall. Both of them died instantly. Derek was taken back into custody the same day. This time, the sentence was not about a writing competition or financial fraud. It was life imprisonment. When I heard the news, I sat in the garden of my villa for a long time without moving. I did not feel satisfaction. I did not feel grief either, not exactly. What I felt was something quieter and harder to name. The sense that some stories, once they start, will always find their ending, no matter how many times you change the middle. My biological family, the Harlows, reached out through a lawyer shortly after. They had been informed of the full situation by the authorities. I wrote a polite and brief reply thanking them for making contact. I said I would be in touch when I was ready. Then I folded the letter, set it on the desk, and went back to writing. The story I was working on was something entirely my own. No competitions. No prizes. No one looking over my shoulder or watching through the lens of a camera hidden in my glasses. Just a blank page and the kind of silence that, for the first time in 2 lifetimes, felt like it actually belonged to me.